All right.
What are we clapping?
I I don't know why I'm clapping because we're getting ready to start a podcast, and I think we're talking about edibles, right?
No, no, we're not. No, we're talking about wearables, Mertz.
Are we talking about werewolves?
Wearables.
Oh, I swore I thought you said edibles.
No, were you on
Well,
edibles
I
while we were
took
talking
one
about?
before the podcast.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
Oh, well, that explains a lot. I
No, I'm
guess.
joking. I'm joking. No, it's too early in the morning for that.
Good. All
It's too,
right. All
it's too early in the morning for that.
There's a too early in the morning for you.
That's vacation,
I-
you know? But I have like a week off. Yeah, maybe in the morning.
Folks, we have found lines that Mertz won't cross. Everybody take notes. I think that's when somebody wants to have a wild weekend. I tell them, don't do anything Mertz wouldn't do. So there's no limit.
Yeah, I don't like I have limits. Usually I need other people to tell me what they are.
People maybe, well, how about a wearable to beep and tell you stop doing this?
I just want to wear them.
Stop this behavior. Hey, folks, I'm Coach Tanya.
And I'm Coach Mertz.
And this is the Affiliate Soapbox.
Yeah. So we're talking about wearables, right?
Yeah.
Whoop, Fitbit, Apple Watch, chest straps, things like that nature, right? And why do you wear yours?
I wear, honestly, the most significant reason I wear this thing is because I like to have Siri tell me whenever I hit one of my goals or finish a workout. I like to have Siri say, "Great job, mistress." And yes,
Mistress.
that's what Siri calls me.
No, that's for my mistress.
I set that up
Okay.
when we first were able to set up.
So
a
you're
Siri
a
years
dominatrix?
ago. No. I just really like having that said to me. I don't know why.
All right. Well, maybe deep down you'd be a dominatrix.
I think I just like being in charge, right?
Okay.
And then I like having Siri. Siri is the little person running around after me saying, great job. Unless it's a rest day and then Siri's like, you haven't done anything. And I was stop, leave me alone. Yeah.
So
I do like my Apple Watch. I think probably because I'm in the Apple cult. So everything works very well together, right?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to mesh technologies. What's your wearable? What do you wear?
$10 from Amazon. It says start, stop for a stopwatch. That's what yeah. I had Apple Watches for a long time, and I found that they just don't last with me, a year or two, and they break or whatever. And then, and to talk about that a little bit, kind of, because I'm kind of on I don't want to say anti-wearables. I look at it as a tool in a toolbox. I don't let it, I tried to let it I don't get caught up in the whole, how are you feeling today? Well, it says I'm at a strain of this, but you know what? I feel like I could do this. And, I like to go off with my own feelings and what I feel like I can produce in the day and whatnot. And whatever workout it is, I like the barbell test. I just go over to the barbell, pick it up out of the stand. Feels heavy. I'm like, all right, well, today's going to be a max day. Or if it feels really light, I pull it right out. I'm like, oh, I'm on today. So I like to go by feel a lot. I do see a lot of pros that when I used to wear them, I would wear them, especially when I used to have the chest strap. I just found myself caught up in the whole inertia of it, okay, how am I feeling versus what is the data saying? And I became almost a slave to that. Like, for instance, I remember, wearing my Polar Heartbeat chest strap.
I hated that.
And I had my phone right there in front of me while I was working out, looking at my heart rate, seeing what zone I'm in. And I'm like, okay, I'll put the bar down. And I'll be like, okay, I'm going to wait for my heart rate to get here before I pick the bar up. And I just, and this is back when I was, min-maxing, right? Where I was trying to look for that 1%, 0.5% better to get better. And I found that I was just getting way too caught up in all of it instead of just knowing what I'm feeling and just kind of going.
I hate it. So specifically that strap, right? Because there were way back before CrossFit for me, I was doing spin class. I was doing some of these little, what had the barbells that were like that long.
Yeah.
Right. And colored weights. And so some of the classes actually required you, if you joined a certain gym, to have that strap. And I hated it because first off, it never stayed where it was supposed to stay. Like it was sliding down, it was chafing, it was moving up every way. Just completely not realistic. So it was never in the right spot. I think then they changed it because I was like, I can't wear this. And I had like the arm strap, I think it was, because it
Yeah.
had an arm strap. Same thing. Like it would never be in the right place,
Yeah.
right? So I did not have a good experience with the non-wrist wearable, I guess. I could never find a place to put it where it actually
Well,
stayed and did
and
the
then the
things it
wrist
was
one,
supposed
the
to do.
wrist one could be a problem too, because if you're going, let's say you want to put wrist straps on. Well, now it's in a way now you gotta loosen
And
it
you
up,
move
bring
it
it
all the way
down
up
right
here.
down here. Right now, I just feel like I'm up to my elbows in gear and shit.
But that's CrossFit. Hey, we like a lot of gear. No, but seriously, the same thing, like even with just the watch, whether it's that watch or another watch. Like, so if we're doing, a
Kettlebells.
kettlebell, especially a kettlebell snatch, right?
Yeah,
Or
the
just an
turn.
overhead kettlebell walk, you got to turn that, that's the first thing I'll come and be like, folks, from experience, turn your watch to the inside,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You can also do silly things like and I'm sorry, New Orleans Police Department, numerous times I've accidentally called the police doing cleans on my
Oh,
watch
right. Yeah,
because
yeah,
of that wristband. And so now I've changed the position of the emergency button because I'm calling the police just because I'm doing,
Well, one
a
of the
lot
things
of
that it
cleans.
also like if a decibel's something loud, it gets too loud, it'll warn you.
That's nice
And
because apparently you don't know when you're in a loud
in a
environment.
shop environment, that I work at 5 days a week, and I'm whatever. There's a lot of noise going on, so that sumbitch would always be like decibel levels. I'm like, shut up! You only aggravate me more.
Yeah, I think that's the irritating things where it's like you're in a loud place. I'm like, no, see,
Yeah.
And then the other thing is if it's telling me you've just gotten up, you're meeting your stand goal. I've been standing. Don't
Yeah.
like that
That's some
stand
good
thing
things right there.
never makes sense.
I was telling some cons, but that's the thing. That's a good pro there, right? A lot of times it'll warn you've been sitting down for too long, stand up. And that's, if you're having a job that you're always sitting around, it gives you
That's
that
true. It could be a nice little alarm.
nice
Get
thing,
up, move around.
Yeah, I think that's some good things. There's definitely some pros to it. There's definitely some cons for me. Like I said, the sleep patterns, I think that, our quality sleep, seeing that data really can help, for
See, now that's
sure.
the issue I've had. I have a problem with getting used to something on my wrist, right? So that wearable causes some minor discomfort, which causes me to sleep less well or just, keep waking up at night. So there's the
Well,
first.
I remember getting before the wearables on the wrist, going back to the strap, and I would sleep with that on, and I did that for like a few nights, and I'm like,
Nope.
you know,
Totally uncomfortable. And then the other issue, like, so I had a Whoop for a while because, there's the program where somebody gives you their Whoop and then tries to get you addicted
were you in a
to
Whoop
the Whoop.
team?
I don't think I was on a team.
Well, so like you can make teams, like you could have, I say teams, but you could have you could share your data with me. I could, all the other coaches, members, whatnot. You can kind of see everybody's strain and whatnot, which is really cool. But I was like, that's like a little invasive for me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's accountability, right? But maybe it's TMI.
Like, I don't have Alexa in my house. I don't like all that stuff. I don't like the fact that my phone listens to me all the time.
And let's talk about, first off, the accuracy, because I once had an athlete come in morning class and people were discussing the Whoop. And he's like, well, yesterday I was doing my dishes and I had a Whoop strain of 17. And we were like, what was it, like dishes, AMRAP? Like every minute on the minute, you have to do 5 without dropping it and then dry it too. Like 17 strain. So I think the problem is the accuracy of any of these devices. And maybe they're super accurate for you, but they're not accurate for me because we're very different. Everybody's so individual, right? That is it really measuring the same thing? And what's the baseline there?
Well, it's like, when you get your Whoop, the first week, I think it is, or 2, they'll kind of track you to see the data points and make sure, and they'll kind of tell you it's too loose or it's too tight, or you got to move it here, move it there. So, I think Whoop's customer service in terms of that is really cool that they can give you feedback those first few weeks to get used to how to wear and how to do it. You don't get that with Apple. I can't call Apple and ask them, hey, my thing that Whoop is actually, I think, really good when it comes to that.
To me, maybe they just
you can go to Apple Store and say, hey, look, my thing's not tracking me correctly, and they'd be like, you're something wrong with you.
Well, to be fair, they might be right about that. They might be just making an accurate assessment of the problem. No, but seriously, so I think the last time I tried Whoop, because I've had numerous people gift me their Whoop, which I really, when they get a new one, and which is great. Thank you very much for trying to get me into your cult. I do
Whoop cult.
appreciate the inclusivity going on there. The very biggest issue I had when I tried Whoop last was it actually started to give me anxiety, not over my workouts or the intensity or my heart rate there, but it gave me anxiety over my sleep because not only, first off, it was preventing me from getting great sleep because it was just uncomfortable. But also in the morning, the nights where I think, man, I slept so well, I feel amazing. It would be like, your sleep score is 32, like F,
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
failed. And then there's other nights where it's telling me you have this great sleep score when I was up half the night. And so A, again, the accuracy, but B, it started to really give me anxiety of, man, I'm sleeping wrong. And to be fair, we have, especially in today's day and age with all of the modern distractions from sleep,
Oh, yeah,
with
yeah.
the way the world is right now, with all the different stressors we have, sleep is a challenge, but it became more anxiety
It's a,
inducing to
a
constantly be chasing this sleep metric that, looking back, I'm not sure Whoop had a handle on what it was telling me
yeah,
I was missing or
it's
doing
another
wrong.
layer of just something to worry about,
Right.
and and that's the other part
Answering
too.
to it.
You become a slave of them, and that's kind of my point there is that I became a slave to those operation units and whatever I was using. And it got to a point where, all right, again, going back to it, if I'm trying to get a 0.5% better inside the gym or 1% better, those kinds of tools will help. Will help. You have to be prepared to be a slave to that.
Yeah.
To
If you're a high level competitor and
Yeah, yeah.
you were going for the national Oli stage,
Well, this is
right?
before all that, but yeah, yeah. But
Well, trying to
essentially,
get there.
well, when I really wasn't wearing anything for that, but when I was really into CrossFit competitions and trying to do well in the open and all these different, and trying to, be the best athlete I could be.
Make it to like the regionals when those existed.
Yeah, like those kinds of things, and you can get caught up in that, and we ultimately we have a life to live. No
That's true.
matter what,
That's true.
yeah, we have a life to live, and it's great if you're a CrossFit competitor and you like getting in, doing competitions. Like look at Lisa Wilmer, right?
Yeah.
That girl does it, strongman
She blows my
CrossFit,
mind, the sheer amount of things that she
right?
participates in and accomplishes.
So and
So,
so
so maybe that's super
it's
useful
a
for her
her,
because
yeah,
she really does need to monitor how she's performing and her recovery. I think
sure,
that if you
yes,
are a high level performer, if you are a mass performer, as in you're doing all of these different modalities in conjunction with several different competitions, then the wearables really do play a part and give you an advantage
hundred
in
percent,
how are you recovering, right? When are you maybe needing that rest day? Because if you're going really hard 6, 7 days a week, you may need that reminder, hey,
right?
you're starting to actually break down instead of build up.
Yeah, and then you take your average person that comes in, right? And I love it. And look, to my point now is like when I do my whiteboard briefing, after I finish my whiteboard briefing, I'm gonna go, okay, y'all, go ahead and
Run your watch.
start your watch because you can tell because as soon we get like 10, 15 minutes in and they're like, I forgot to start my watch. I'm like, well, I guess you didn't do no
It
workout
doesn't
then, huh?
count.
It
I'm the
doesn't
same
count, right?
way. Like if I'm in the class and I didn't start the little workout button, and all of a sudden I look down, it just tells me the time. I'm like, no, none of it counted.
Well, it is kind of cool at the end of a session, and you kind of look at how many calories did I burn? What zone was I in? I think those are all good things, right? It kind of gives you some data points to kind of look back at. Especially if you're specifically trying to work in certain zones, right? We don't work in zone 2, zone 3, right? We're not trying to touch zone 5, and then you see somebody touch zone 5. It's like, oh, you went, it gets out off the stimulus or
Then
whatever.
we're doing Fran, and then just you're supposed
Well, it's supposed to be
right?
there,
You're
right?
supposed to be doing Murph, and all of a sudden you're doing Fran.
If
The
you're in zone
intensity
2 and
should be different.
Fran, you did something wrong.
Right. And if you're a zone 5 in Murph, we need to have a
Correct.
serious conversation.
Yes.
Probably get you some electrolytes, sit you down,
Yes.
cooling room.
So there are some good points about that for even the average day, athlete, so to say, that does CrossFit or runner or whatever. Again, going back to that, right? So if I'm doing interval training, if I'm doing my running, I'm training for a high rocks, and I need to get better at running, right? Crescent City Classics this weekend, right? When I run that, we're supposed to run it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But no, I like to have I want to go hiking in the mountains. I tell you what, that's probably one thing that I before I go before I go on a trip hiking, I need to get another Garmin or Apple Watch, because that's something I like to have. I like to see, not to mention especially if I'm lost in the woods.
Right, I was gonna say, so that we can track you down.
Right.
Somebody seen Mertz? We haven't heard from him in 3 weeks.
So, for sure. Like that's probably the one reason why I like to have data tracking sources for things like that. Getting inside the gym, again, I don't like to be a slave to it, because every day is just, okay, start, stop. Okay. And how did I achieve today? How well did I do? Did I do good? I don't know. This thing's telling me I did great, but then I look at my score and
You
I'm
look at
like,
your numbers,
yeah. I don't think I did that great.
and how you feel, like, what does your output seem like to you? I think it can be a metric to teaching you how to scale back intensity, right?
Sure.
So maybe you're using that to say, okay, I've pushed past the stimulus. Because we are still, especially these days with all the different modalities available, we have it in our heads that if you don't feel like you're dying at the end of any given workout, you didn't work hard enough.
That's what she said.
Well, I think it lends to a goal.
So
Yeah.
it's understanding that you are still doing the work, you're still putting in the effort, and especially like heavy lifting days. So you're not for 1 hour straight, 50 minutes straight, you're not going at 80%. You've got these short maximal efforts with each lift if you're going for a max lift, which is much different than a high intensity workout. Again, we're going to pull Fran out of that here, or Isabel. So it's a much different stimulus there. So I think it can help specifically beginners or folks that are having trouble gauging how hard they are working versus how hard they should be working.
Yeah.
It's a great tool. Like a scale is a great tool to potentially monitor progress. But again, if you get on the scale every day, you stop monitoring progress.
Yeah. That becomes a con. We go from pro to con real quick when we start talking about things like that, right? Because if you've been weighing yourself every day, and then all of a sudden you go weigh yourself and you gain 5 pounds.
Why, God? Why?
It's like look. We've seen athletes that happen to them. They weigh themselves or whatnot, and they're like, and they freak out and they lose that goal, or that goal all of a sudden becomes.
They think they're not making progress because that 5 pounds, but that 5 pounds day to day is, what did you eat last night? Right. How much salt did you have? Are you dehydrated? Did you sleep enough? Did you just do a hard workout? Right. Yeah. So these are definitely tools to be used when maybe needed or when you're just starting out, but to rely on them is not, so you can't depend on one of these to tell you how your VO2 max is doing, right? You have to look at the limits of
I like that they added the heart rate variability. I like that one. That's pretty cool that they started developing on that one.
I think that, some of the, what would we call passive readings, that maybe it's something we don't necessarily have a conscious awareness of. So the passive, if we can decide that we depend on these readings, if we look at the technology, and which I really haven't, but how, because the Apple Watch, I think, does that now to an extent as well. And I haven't delved into that. But how accurate are these readings? They might be good to get a baseline for you and then see how it changes or trends over time. Yeah. But again, we don't know how accurate that baseline is.
Yeah, I think it's another good, talking about the heart rate variability, right? So like when I wake up in the morning, go to the bathroom, you definitely want to go to the bathroom before you look at your heart rate, because it'll change. Mm-hmm. You go to the bathroom. After you go to the bathroom, go lay down, go back in bed, lay down for a couple minutes and look at your resting heart rate. All right. Take that data, do Fran throughout the day, and see how high your heart rate got on that thing. And that gives you, the small and large part of your heart rate variability right there. And I think that's some great data to have, because I like to be able to boast that I have a 49 or 50 resting heart rate. It's
having that lower resting heart rate, and then of course, you go to the doctor and you have to explain it. You walk in and they take your blood pressure, they test your heart rate, and they're having a panic attack, and you're like, I do CrossFit. They're like, are you okay? We need to get tested in here. I'm like, no.
Well, that's a good point too, talking about the health parameters of it. I definitely have seen it more than once, maybe 3 or 4 times where an athlete was wearing a wearable and you could see their heart rate go really erratic, like just jumping 10, dropping 10, jumping 20, dropping 20. And it's like, whoa, what's going on here?
Maybe there's a problem.
There's a problem. And then we'll go see the doctors and they would see they have a heart arrhythmia. It's like, if we didn't have that wearable, we would have had no idea.
Yeah, and I think even if you so we don't know how accurate it is for that, having that little nudge to maybe get it tested. So maybe you find nothing, but better to be
On
on the
the
safe
safe than
side
sorry.
because,
Yeah.
especially certain populations have a tendency to just not go to the doctor and not get
Right,
something
yeah.
checked.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm looking straight at you. Maybe it's
How you
Mertz.
feeling, Doc? I don't know. I don't know. But, I definitely am one that, again, going back to it, I could be a little anti-wearables just because of the fact that, like, the whole sleep component of it. I remember, like, what was it? We were doing, uh, shoot, just a wearable of it, right? So I kind like when I do a CrossFit workout, I got to wear a wrist strap, and so we talked about this already, but I had to take it. I would take it off while I was working out, so I found no use of it while working out because I don't like having all that on me. And so I don't know. And then not to mention when you have that chest strap one and you're doing cleans, the
Yeah.
amount of times it would hit, you know?
I didn't get that far with the chest strap, but I can see how, again,
Yeah,
and for me, especially the movements we're doing in the CrossFit gym, any sort of jumping, whether it's a burpee, right, box jump, jumping rope, that chest strap, I can already tell would just be,
yeah,
it's not staying where it's supposed to stay. But I think overall, wearables have their place. Like again, it, gives me that little boost when I've got no one else cheering me on. Sirius telling me, "Great job,
yeah,
you
yeah.
did it." That's a nice
Well,
little.
I think going back to the goals again, just kind of touch on them again. It's like, okay, if you're new to this and you're kind of getting in, and I think it's great data to have as a coach, and you're an athlete. I can see exactly where you were at, how did that workout go for you with the data points.
Mhm.
See if you could have pushed a little bit more. See if we went too hard. But after and in competitive nature, if you get into competitions and you really want to use it for that. But outside of that, if you've been doing CrossFit for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you kind of get you really don't need it all.
I think the main thing I like for wearables right now is one of the most basic things is telling time, all right, telling me where I'm at.
That's it.
Sometimes you get your messages, your texts, your calls. It can kind of keep you in the loop. But one of the other main basic things I like is just that they track your steps. Okay.
Oh,
So like
yeah,
the
yeah.
pedometer,
Sure.
category is I just like to know how much am I moving. And there's different science telling you, you want to be at least 10,000 steps a day to be healthy or 5,000 steps is good. And there's scientists arguing back and forth. I think that as long as we can see that we're moving consistently on a daily basis and then use that data to tell us, well, I felt better. I was less sore. My hips weren't as achy and my back wasn't as achy when I walk 7 to 10,000 steps
Yeah.
versus when I'm in the 3,000 to 5,000 range. So I think it's very good for that because I found I just feel better physically and mentally when I'm closer to that 10,000 range.
Yeah, and then Mardi Gras, right? I like
Okay.
to see how many steps I did, at a parade.
Yeah.
Coaching classes, right? You can definitely tell a difference if you going from coaching like 1 or 2 classes a day, if you're coaching 5.
hmm
Wow, I
I think
mean, it's
it's also that could be a good
yeah,
coaching metric there. If you're only getting 100, 200, 300 steps in when you're coaching a CrossFit class, you need to move
yeah, it should
around.
be over
You're not seeing
1,000.
your athlete. Even if you only have one athlete, you need to be seeing the different angles. You need to be watching every movement that they do. You need to be doing more cueing. Yeah, you should
Sure,
be getting 1,000, 2,000, depending on how big the class is, how big your gym is.
sure.
So there we go. It's a coaching
It's
metric.
a coaching metric,
How
100%.
many steps are you getting in
And then
during
going back to Whoop, and you can be everybody, all the coaches on the team. You can see, oh, Mertz, you only did 500 steps during coaching.
Right.
Did you coach?
Were you actually there? Were
Were
you
you
in the
there?
bathroom the whole time? Like, there's all these questions. But yeah, I think folks, when it comes to wearables, what we've decided is they can be good in certain contexts. You don't want to depend on them
No.
as you delve further into your fitness journey. They're a good starter. They can be great for things like reminding you where your intensity is. They can be great for tracking steps. Siri can be a great cheerleader, okay?
Right.
Because coaches shouldn't be cheerleaders. Coaches are there
You
to
gotta,
help
you gotta close
move
those
better.
rings.
Right. You got to close those rings, make you feel really good. But overall, if you use a wearable and you're super happy with it, maybe hop into the comments. Tell us why. Tell us how long you've been using it and what you think we should try. Is there something else we haven't tried? There's Whoop, there's Polar, there's Fitbit,
Fitbit,
there's
yeah.
Garmin, there's Apple. Do you have something new to tell us? Are you making something new?
Which one did you like
Right.
better one than the other?
Right.
You know?
Let's have a conversation about it. But looking forward to the week ahead. I hope everybody grabs their wearable, throws it on their wrist.
And make sure you eat your edible.
Right. Stop. Please like, share, and follow. I'm Coach Tanya.
I'm Coach Mertz.
This is the Affiliate Soapbox. We gotta get you off the edibles, man. You're just running around.